to get all these unemployment benefits has been a nightmare.
They've struggled and struggled. Tonight, a post-Christmas gift is within reach. Help in the form of stimulus checks and extended unemployment benefits.
They should have done this a lot sooner for a lot more.
But is it too little, too late? As the relief package heads to the president's desk, stimulus checks are likely coming your way. Who qualifies and when they could arrive?
Plus a vicious animal or the perfect companion? The fate of Aurora's pit bull ban is being discussed at this hour.
All flows towards you.
And a young man with talent, with love and compassion, currently in the fight of his life.
I'm in treatment at the moment, leukemia.
Tonight, his new passion and purpose that paired him up with a local musician.
Doing music made me feel like I can keep going.
After months of gridlock, help is within reach for millions of people struggling to make ends meet during this pandemic.
In the last 15 minutes, the Senate gave the final approval for the long-awaited $900 billion COVID relief package. It's tied to a $1.4 trillion spending package, money needed to keep the federal government running. Now, that funding was set to expire at midnight tonight.
And so here's what's included in this COVID relief package. It promises to help with vaccine distribution, deliver much-needed help to small businesses. We're talking $284 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program loans, another $25 billion for rental assistance, $80 billion for schools and colleges, and $13 billion for food assistance.
And of course, the big part of this bill, stimulus checks. So who gets them? When and how much will you get? Let's break it down for you right now. Individuals who made up to $75,000 last year will receive a $600 payment. For couples who jointly filed, that number is $150,000.
And keep in mind, this is based on your 2019 tax returns. If you have children, you'd also get $600 for each dependent. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says today he expects the first payments to go out before the end of the year. When stimulus checks were approved back in the spring, it took about 2 weeks for payments to start appearing in people's bank accounts. If the IRS doesn't have your bank account information, you will get a physical check in the mail.
And there's also relief in sight for the 20 million Americans, including Coloradans, on unemployment. An extension in federal benefits could mean extra money in your pocket.
Denver7 CB Cotton joins us with more on what unemployed Coloradans can expect. CB?
Well, Gary and Ann, that's right. Several unemployment benefits related to the CARES Act will now be extended thanks to Congress's decision. This is something that hundreds and thousands of Coloradans have been waiting and watching for. As one Denver resident told me, her rent depended on it.
Traveling through Denver traffic turned up dollars for Genevieve Reed.
Before the pandemic, I was driving for Lyft.
But at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, Reed knew it was a job she could no longer do.
I'm immune compromised. At the time, I didn't know what I was going to do financially, but I knew that risking my life wasn't worth it. And so I would have to wait and see what happened. And fortunately, they passed a lot of the pandemic relief.
CARES Act relief that provided eviction protection and jobless benefits for the unemployed, programs that were crucial for people like Reed who work as independent contractors.
I wouldn't be able to pay my rent without them.
But many of those federal unemployment benefits were set to expire this weekend. Now, a new COVID relief package will extend them through mid-March, allowing the unemployed to collect an extra $300 a week, along with other benefits. Reed says the help is needed.
A lot of people are, not knowing if they're going to pay rent for January, how they're going to eat, stuff like that.
CB Cotton, Denver7.
There's concern millions could be homeless come the new year. The federal eviction moratorium is set to expire on December 31st, and this COVID relief package would extend that moratorium for another month, so until January 31st. According to the Census Bureau, 1/3 of all the households in the country are behind on their rent or mortgage. Today, Governor Jared Polis's office said they're closely watching Congress and they will match state policy with federal law. And you may be wondering about student loan forgiveness. That was not included in this relief bill. The pause on payments has already been extended to January 31st by the Department of Education.
And back here at home, Colorado lawmakers are delaying their return to the state capitol for the 2021 legislative session. They're delaying it about a month because of coronavirus concerns. Lawmakers will briefly meet the second week of January to swear in new members, but then they'll adjourn until February 16th. The governor's state of the state will also be postponed until February once the session resumes.
Shipments of the Moderna vaccines are already arriving in our state. We're expecting to get around 95,000 doses. State leaders say more than 12,000 of those doses went to about a dozen facilities today in Boulder, Castle Rock, Denver, Westminster, and in rural parts of our state. And we expect to get more shipments tomorrow and on Wednesday. We're also getting more Pfizer shipments this week. Nearly 34,000 Coloradans, healthcare workers, I'm going to say that again. Nearly 34,000 Colorado healthcare workers have been vaccinated since last Monday. And President-elect Joe Biden got vaccinated today against COVID-19. He got the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine at a hospital in Delaware. The president-elect will have to get his second dose in a few weeks. Dr. Jill Biden also received the vaccine today. And Vice President-elect Kamala Harris and her husband will be vaccinated next week.
All right, let's take a quick look at the numbers. We added 2,000 cases to our statewide count today. That number is trending, though, in the right direction. Just under 1,400 hospital beds are in use. That number is also down from the peak we saw a few weeks ago. About 73% of ICU beds are in use. That's a significant drop compared to numbers we saw earlier this month.
A Lockbowie man contacted Denver7 after he got a $2,000 medical bill for a coronavirus test that never happened. Jesus Balderas says he was potentially exposed to COVID-19 at work, and his employer encouraged him to get tested. So he went to Platte Valley Medical Center in March, and he says staff took his vitals and then refused to test him. And he was shocked when he ended up with that costly bill.
For someone just to come and, here you go, we'll bill you this much for pretty much nothing. You're going to fight back. You're going to try to find a way to, hey, why are you charging me this much?
Contact Denver7 reached out to the hospital. A spokesperson said due to state guidelines, non-symptomatic patients were not tested for COVID-19 in the spring. Now, in the end, the hospital knocked $250 off the bill, but Jesus and his employer are still fighting the bill.
If you couldn't get a reservation to ski this holiday week and you're heading into the backcountry, be careful. 3 people died over the weekend after getting caught in avalanches. Another 9 people were trapped in avalanches. Right now, avalanche conditions are considerable from Aspen to Vail and Summit County to Steamboat, even down south in Gunnison. In the last week, there have been nearly 400 avalanches reported across the state. In Vail and Summit County alone, talking about 50, and at least 14 of them were big enough to bury, injure, or even kill someone. Experts say we have a weak layer of snow, then tack on the latest storm and the strong winds, making avalanches even more dangerous. And if you're heading up to the mountains this week for Christmas, expect long delays, at least until Wednesday. One westbound lane of I-70 near Idaho Springs is closed for the express lane project. We're talking a 6-mile stretch there in that one lane. CDOT is trying to take advantage of the warm weather to pave the road. This is part of the express lane project. As I mentioned, work will resume tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and then continue through the night. The highway will be fully back open in time for Christmas and the Christmas weekend.
The city of Aurora is discussing its ordinance that bans pit bulls. Council members introduced 2 proposals. One would have councilors decide the fate of the ban. Another would leave it up to voters. Well, Mayor Mike Kaufman is in favor of leaving it up to voters. But back in 2014, a majority of Aurora voters opposed an ordinance that would have allowed pit bulls in the city. So tonight there was talk about making the ballot measure language similar to Denver's, and that measure to repeal the city's pit bull ban passed last month. Council struck down the idea of letting voters decide. Now, as for whether council will just repeal the ban entirely, that's still being discussed as we speak, and we'll stay on top of this. Also, at tonight's City Council meeting in Aurora, a discussion to potentially approve recreational marijuana delivery to those 21 and older. Aurora could become one of the first cities to pass such an ordinance. Some cities already allow delivery for medical marijuana. And now, if this should pass, deliveries could begin next year.
In just the last hour, the city of Denver made it official. Columbus Park no longer exists. It's now called La Raza Park. People living near the park started calling it La Raza during the 1970s. And over the years, it became a focal point of Denver's Chicano movement. Councilwoman Amanda Sandoval has been leading the charge to change the name. And tonight she says she's proud. She says Columbus did not represent the community.
It's been mild and dry, but this cold front means snow for the mountains, colder conditions coming our way.
I have seen a little more increase for just buying gifts, and especially this holiday season.
Skip the crowds at brick and mortar stores. The online marketplace is thriving, and Colorado business owners say it's helped them stay afloat.
You feel horrible for these other businesses.
And the announcement that caused a Broncos player to break down.